It's one of the most iconic moments in the history of golf. The locale, the 18th hole on the stadium course at the Players' Championship. The opponent had won 10 of his previous 16 starts. The golf world was looking for someone who could tame a tiger.
Be the right club.
And with a 6-iron from 179, the moment was born.
Be the right club. Welcome
to the Be the Right Club Today podcast, presented by Makefield Putters.
Be the right club today.
Now, here are your hosts, Mark Greenhalgh and Todd Burrell.
Welcome into the Be the Right Club Today podcast, presented by Makefield Putters. Mark Greenhalgh, Todd Burrell, and guest Rob Spellman this week. Todd, how are you doing?
Trying to stay cool, Greeny. It is warm in the Carolinas right now.
Oh, it is beautiful. We were talking before we hopped on that you're pretty much shutting it down because it's too hot to play golf. Me, on the other hand, I love this stuff.
Yeah, I can't shake the Canadian in me no longer, no matter how long I've been down here. It's the heat gets to me at some point.
And Rob Spellman from Golf Aficionado magazine. Rob, how do you like the heat? Do you like to play in it? Would you rather not?
Being a Central Florida guy, you don't really have a choice. So I've just gotten used to it. I try to play early. I'm an early bird anyway, so the earlier the better this time of year. But it's funny, like, I don't know, I guess it's global warming or whatever, but everybody I talk to around the country, even in like the Carolinas, Virginia, Maryland area, they're usually a few degrees hotter than we are in Central Florida right now. It's been going on like that for weeks. So we're not the hottest part of the country for some reason.
No, yeah, my dad lives over north of Daytona Beach, and I was up in Virginia playing golf the other day, and I was at 95, and he was at 83. So, yeah, there you go. It was perfect for you guys down there. Todd, we got some across-the-pond golf coming up the next 2 weeks. We've got the Scottish Open, followed by the Open Championship at Birkdale. Kind of a part of the season I enjoy.
I do, too. I like this 2-week stretch. I like watching the Scottish. Kind of gives you an idea who's rolling on links golf courses going into the Open Championship, and it's usually a really good field as well.
Yeah, and I don't know, Rob, you've played a little bit over in Scotland, England, Ireland. For guys that go over to play in the Scottish versus guys that don't go to play in the Scottish before they go to the Open Championship, I've played in Italy, and that's pretty much it that I've played with over in Europe. I didn't really have much of an adjustment. What do you feel like? Is there an adjustment period that you need to kind of get going over there? I mean, we see a lot of guys go, some guys don't.
No, I think definitely the more experience you have, the better off, right? Like the more seasoned guys, like I always think of Tom Watson when I think of like an American that really excelled in Europe. But these guys are so elite. I mean, you could probably put them anywhere and they're going to golf well, but it is a different game. The conditions are different, and they're kind of like us too. I want to say, like in Europe in particular, right? Their irrigation philosophy is a lot different than ours. So if they're having a really dry summer, right, you're going to notice it, right? Their course is going to be brown. It's not going to be getting the water that they like we would here in the States. So the conditions are a lot different. But anybody that, to me, it's almost, if you're going to commit and you're going to go and try to win a claret jug, you should be playing the Scottish, in my opinion, right? I think it does give you an upper hand.
Well, and Todd, when we look at Royal Birkdale, this golf course seems to bring out the best. I mean, the list of winners here: Peter Thompson, Arnold Palmer, Peter Thompson again, Lee Trevino, Johnny Miller, Tom Watson, Ian Baker Finch, Mark O'Meara, Patty Harrington, Jordan Spieth. Man, that is a list of champions, and to me, a list of superior ball strikers. Now, not so much Jordan Spieth right now, but at that time, Jordan Spieth was a superior ball striker.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about what the expected conditions are going to be in terms of firm, fast, wet. I don't know what type of season they're having over there, but yes, this golf course tends to produce those types of champions. You got a lot of those kind of guys playing good golf right now, so that the top of the leaderboard should be pretty crowded with the ball strikers.
My understanding is it's been hot. It's been hot over there, as much as it's been hot here. And I don't know if that has ended. I'm with you. I just saw that they were having some really, I mean, every time you see the Open Championship, you see everybody out there in shorts and it's like 65 degrees. I'd be like, looking like the Michelin Man all bundled up. But I mean, that's kind of their summer over there, right, Rob? Is that it doesn't get tremendously warm, but when it gets hot and it sticks around.
Yeah, for sure. And I've always considered myself, when you have a good day over there, it's just, being in Central Florida, you're blessed, right? Like you may get rained on, but more often than not, you're going to go out and be able to have an enjoyable round of golf. But there, like it varies so drastically, and then if you go in the off season, a lot of courses out there, they'll make you carry the little mat and you've got to hit off the little piece of turf sometimes. So, the weather it's another beast out there. So,
Todd, I'm pretty sure you haven't played over across the pond. I know I haven't played across the pond in any of the places where the Rota goes. But Rob, you've played some over that way. Where have you played? Scotland, England, Ireland.
I'm always blessed, right? And so I've gotten to play a lot of places. My first round ever, as I went on my first UK trip, actually was Royal Birkdale. So I remember that very fondly. And to give you an idea of the weather and just kind of the different conditions, we went, I want to say it was like October 8th. It was early October. So it was kind of the start of the shoulder season. It was kind of getting into the better rates. But it poured and poured and poured and poured. And I want to say like 10 minutes before our tee time, it was like divine intervention. The skies cleared, the sun came out, and we never had a drop of rain on us. Like I said, it just cats and dogs until 10 minutes before the tee time. The wind came and all that stuff, and it made it super challenging. But like I always remember that round at Birkdale. I remember we flew into Manchester, we landed. We went to a buddy of his mom's house was over there in Manchester. We showered, we had breakfast because, coming in from the States, we took like a red eye overnight. You get there and it's super early in the morning. She fed us breakfast. And then next thing you know, we were on our way to Birkdale. And then after that round at Birkdale, we jumped in the van. We had fish and chips somewhere local. And then we made I think it was like about a 5-hour drive down to St. Andrews. So got to play the old course that trip. One of my favorite courses, probably like I always get asked the question, right? Everybody's like, Rob, what's your favorite course? And to me, it's, you experience, course layout, history, everything kind of all rolled into one, is Kingsbarns, which is just outside of St. Andrews. It's a relatively newer course compared to some of that stuff, but I just, I've had an opportunity to play it a couple times. The weather's always been perfect. It's real links golf, right on the sea there. So definitely done that. Love Northern Ireland. I've played in Ireland too, primarily in the Dublin area. Northern Ireland is, really special. Speaking of the Open, Rhoda, I was able to play when Portrush got the Open back in 2019. And I think at that point it had been like 49 years since the Open Championship had returned to Portrush. Got to play that just a few weeks before the Open, and all the stands were up and everything. And it was just such a special experience. So, you kind of can roll all that into one, like Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and even the golf in England. I think, as you get into Northern Ireland, I think, it's all, whether you're playing links golf or not, right? But every round, and I think the crazy thing I always explain to people, good golf is like, there's the ones we always talk about, and the rotation for the Open Championship, it's always fun to talk about those courses, but there's just so many local courses that you may never hear about, but if you get the opportunity to experience it, they're so special. So yeah, it's amazing the way people treat the game, and how they're serious about it, and it's just a different experience in the States. And I always joke about it, Todd. Like when I get to Canada, sometimes I have a buddy there that I get to play in the Westmount member guest.
Yeah.
And in Canada, it always gives me a similar type feeling, right? Like, I don't know if it's because the season's so short and it's like a precious commodity, like when you get to play golf, but it's like everybody, it's just a different level of appreciation for it, in Canada. And it always has reminded me of like that Scottish feel that you get, or like when you go over to Europe.
It is. And even inland, like central Ontario, there's a lot of links style golf courses, even though they're not seaside links, which is unique. Obviously, if you go to the East Coast, you got the Cabot Trail and Cabot Cliffs and whatnot, and those are world renowned now. But there is a ton of good golf in in Canada, across Canada. But where I grew up in that area, the Greater Toronto area, the GTA, as the locals call it, tons and tons and tons of good golf courses. My favorite golf course I've ever played, ever, is St. George's in Toronto, just outside of Toronto. And if you've played there, you would know it's got a lot of history, and what a wonderful design, and always in fabulous shape. Really cool membership there as well. What do you remember about Birkdale? Because, obviously we've got the tournament coming up, but do you have a pretty good memory of the layout of that golf course, or how it played, or can you remember specific holes? What was difficult about it?
It'll challenge my memory because it was probably at least 12, 13 years ago that we did that trip. But I do remember Birkdale and playing one par three in particular. I can't remember the whole number, but the wind was just whipping. And I remember the green is like over here on your left. And the cool thing, like, whenever you're going on these trips, especially like to Europe, get a caddy, right? Like at least have a 4 caddy for the group. But if you can have your own caddy, it just takes it to like another level. But I can remember the green being over here and the caddy having us aim like 100 yards right. And he's like, just trust me, you're going to aim, and then the wind's going to hit it and it's going to move it over. And just, that memory always stuck with me. And I think Birkdale too, we have a great photo. And I want to say, I almost swear to it, right? With Birkdale, when the members play it, the routing is different than when the Open Championship is played.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right.
I don't know if it's like fully reversed or if they just change up some of the holes, but the routing is definitely different. And when we played it, I think it was not too long after the Open had been hosted there, and they were right at the tail end. They're like, "Oh, we're about to switch it back to the normal route," but we got to play like the championship routing that they had set up. But I remember we got such a great picture of the clubhouse in the background. And the clubhouses, in Europe, they all have like a unique character to them, and they stand out. But I remember that one, it kind of reminded me of like almost like a boat. It felt like the way it was designed and like, but that's probably what I remember the most about Brookville. But yeah, definitely that par 3 and just having to aim like 100 yards right.
Sorry, Greeny. I just wanted to ask, do you have any experience with the Renaissance Club where the Scottish is being played?
No, I haven't played the Renaissance.
Okay.
So, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to say, Todd, that Birkdale's one of those, anomalies too, because, last time we were there, so Jordan Spieth's the defending champion at that golf course from an Open perspective, winning at 12 under par. And if you remember, this is the one where he hit it over on the range and then made that huge bogey putt while poor Matt Kuchar was standing up on the green for, it seemed like 30 minutes waiting to hit a putt. And almost kind of felt bad for Kuchar that Spieth took so long and kind of ruined the momentum that he had. But winning at 12 under par, and then you look at the 2 Opens before that, '08 Patty Harrington in some massive wind, +3 winning score, and O'Meara in 98 at even par. Ian Baker Finch in 91 at 8 under par, and then Watson in 83 at 9 under par. So this is a golf course that, it's very much weather-based, it's very much conditions-based, and it's interesting to see, to your point, Todd, which way that's going to go this year. If it has been hot and it gets windy, we could have that even par, over par winning score from these guys.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I always like to see the elements play a factor in this golf tournament. There's so many golf tournaments that weather really isn't a factor. Obviously, if you have the U.S. Open at Pebble or you do some things along the coast, you can have some weather issues stateside. But for the most part, to really battle it over 4 days doesn't happen a lot in golf tournaments in the States. Um, the Open can give you that, and I think it can give you a lot of theater, a lot of drama when that happens. Like you said, Greeny, if it's firm and fast and it's really blowing, that can get really interesting. Now they're not dealing with green speeds like we deal with over here, but still really really interesting seeing some of the types of shots guys need to play. And I always think about the guys that grew up in the windy areas in the States being like a Scheffler, a Texas guy, any of the Texas guys, Spieth, having that kind of experience in the elements and the wind in particular, having some type of an advantage over there, whether they have a ton of experience on the golf course or not. Playing in the wind is a unique animal, and you either have those shots or you don't. The guys who don't tend to hit it the way they hit it and just kind of let the wind move the ball. But the guys, I saw Scheffler hit a tee shot last week, and his follow through looked like something Arnold Palmer did, 50 years ago. It was unbelievable. Helicopter low around his left hip type thing, kind of hitting like a knockdown 3-wood type shot. So he's got those shots. There's a lot of guys that do. There's a lot of guys that don't as well.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about like the Open Championship, but do you guys remember the 23 Senior Open? And it was the Sunday where it was like torrential rain, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and they turned into like a slop fest, right? And nobody shot under par on Sunday. And I think Wai Yang, he was only, I forget if he won it or he had the best round that Sunday, I think even par. But I remember watching that on TV, and it's just one of those things. It's such a rare feat. I always equate it to being a huge football fan, and whenever you see him play in snow, right? Like how great is a snow game?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same thing, right? So like you can get that weather can really bite you, and you get elements that you just don't get in any other championship.
Well, Greeny's a Pats fan, so he loves a good snow game.
Yeah, that's right. And and the other thing too, Todd, you brought up a great point about the Open Championship and elements. Go hand in hand. But the one thing that they don't do, the R&A does not do, is they don't really manipulate the golf course. They, unlike the USGA, they don't care. And it's evidenced by Royal Birkdale
scores.
Having 12 under versus 3 over, in the last 2 times that they've had it there, 15 strokes. They don't care. And, they're not going to water greens because they're burnt out or because the wind's going to blow. They're, like you said, their green speeds are automatically a little bit slower because they do anticipate winds. And I still remember, I vaguely remember that Patty Harrington victory, probably because he won a couple of major championships, and people are always trying to give the asterisk because Tiger Woods wasn't there and Tiger was injured and whatnot. So back in that time frame, people were trying to do that. But I remember him having to have unbelievable control of that golf ball in some of the wind that he was playing in. So it is fun to watch that happen over there. And Rob, have you seem like you've always played in some great weather over there. Did you have any instance where something got away in terms of the weather?
Yeah, the worst round I ever had weather-wise, I was on my Northern Ireland trip, the one where like the cherry on top was playing Portrush right before the Open. And I'm trying to remember, it's like the best course in Northern Ireland. It's always like in the top 10 in the world.
Ballybunion?
It wasn't Ballybunion, it's the other one. It's because I think Ballybunion is like on the West Coast.
Okay.
But I can't think of it right now. But we played, and it was just downfall, and we had our caddy, and it just nonstop. I think maybe we got maybe 1 or 2 holes in where it didn't rain, but just the whole time. And I remember I didn't have an umbrella, but I did have my rain gear, right? Which is, if you're going to make a trip to Europe, it's mandatory you bring rain gear. Don't even worry about checking the weather. Just don't leave home without it. It's worth the investment. But yeah, that is the one round that sticks out. And I remember it too, because like when we got back to the clubhouse and everybody's soaked, and I mean, we're soaked all the way through, and they had like some special, I forget what they call it over there, but they plan for that, right? And there's in the locker room, they have like these places where it's almost like an oven room or something. Like you put all your wet gear in there and it dries it out. They had a special term for it. It's kind of like when you're in the hotel there, they have like the heated towel racks and stuff.
Right.
But they had like the equivalent for like the golf locker room where you could put all your wet gear and dry it out pretty quickly.
Isn't it amazing the mindset between North American golf and European golf, specifically in the British Isles, where when you go over there, like if it's raining, you're playing, right?
Yeah,
like you're not calling for a rain check, like
correct.
You're going. Whereas here, we're so spoiled, like, there's a 30% chance of rain. And I got people calling my golf shop saying, hey, I think I'm going to bail. It's just a completely different mindset over there. You're going to play golf, and you almost welcome whatever the weather and Mother Nature brings when you go over there.
It was Royal County down. So
okay.
My apologies to Royal County down. But yeah, like it was just nonstop rain. And like you said, they're just, you're out there and your caddy's out there with you too. But yeah, there's no rain check. There's none of that. And when you're on one of those trips, right? Like, a place like Royal County down, it's almost impossible to get a tee time. So when you do, and you've planned like these trips in a year in advance and stuff, like you're committed, man. There's, that's part of the experience at that point.
Yeah, you're going.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. I want to remind everybody about Makefield Putters, our title sponsor here on the Be the Right Club Today podcast, presented by Makefield Putters, made in the USA. You've got their radial cusp technology, allows you to get an equator strike, reducing the skid effect. Hopefully you're going to make a lot more putts with these things. All the different styles, all of the different personalization that you can do with these things, the colors. Got the 3-weight system in there that allows you to get fitted for them. Todd, you're fitting them like crazy. You're sending them out the door. That's why I'm going to come down there one of these days. Maybe I'll sneak down there later this week, and we'll fit me for the new blade putter from Makefield.
Yeah, it's a great product. They continue to sell well. You just get them in people's hands, get the right weight, get the right length. They can customize anything, as you know, and I got a lot of people sell them for me now because they like the new ones that they've got so much.
Go out to makefieldgolf.com and check them out. Also want to remind people about Peak Vision, so you can see like you've never seen before with Peak Vision sunglasses. The difference is immediate. Get ready for the summer here and use the promo code GS15 at peakvision.com. And also remind everybody to head out to BeTheRightClubToday.com. Check out all of the podcasts that are out there and check out the shop and make sure that you buy your favorite clothing item with a little Hal Sutton logo on there. You can get the Hal Sutton logo on there, the Be the Right Club Today logo. I mean, what more could you want on your favorite item?
Yeah, the gear is pretty cool. I mean, if you haven't been on the site yet, check it out. Tons of brands. You can customize stuff, get that logo, as Greeny said. If there's a brand you like, more than likely something like it, or it in fact is on there. So it's a great little shop, and people should check it out.
You hit at least 18 putts around, more like low 30s. So you better make sure you got the right putter in your hand. And I don't think people have spent enough time trying to make sure they have that. Hi, I'm Hal Sutton. 25 years ago, I had the right club at the right moment, and it made a huge difference. Today, I've teamed up with Makefield Putters. I now use the right putter today. You see, Makefield has unique radial cusp technology. The ball releases faster off the face and keeps the ball rolling more on its axis. The result is a straighter putt, more on target. When you get everything just right, the putter that fits you just right, the one that you believe in, your confidence should be oozing out of you. So I would encourage all consumers, go to the Makefield website and educate yourself and get fitted correctly, get the right putter in your hand, and there's hope for better putting ahead.
Golf is challenging enough. Between the sandbagging bandits, the wind, rain, and your homemade swing, it sometimes feels impossible. You need a legal 15th club. You need Peak Vision sunglasses. 4 to 5 hours of protection against glare and ultraviolet light with clarity as clear as crown glass. That's Peak Vision sunglasses, your secret 15th club, giving you one less obstacle to overcome. Just one try is all it takes, and the price is less than national brands. Use the code GS15 at peakvision.com. Back to the Be the Right Club Today podcast presented by Makefield Putters. Mark Greenhouse, Todd Burrell, joined by Rob Spellman from Golf Aficionado magazine. And Rob, I mean, you could talk a little bit from a perspective about how to book these kind of trips for our listeners out there that, you know, whether it's across the pond or domestically, you know, everybody has that destination that they want to go to. I mean, again, we talked about going to a St. Andrews, going to a Royal Portrush, going to, you know, I mean, there's been 98 championships, the Open Championships in Scotland. There's been 52 in England and 3 in Northern Ireland. You know, people know the name golf courses, but to your point, you know, maybe it's a play a name golf course, but there's plenty of other ones around there that you can, you know, spend your time and have just as great of an experience. So talk a little bit about how people can go about setting these kind of trips up.
Yeah, you really have two choices. And you know, you can do it either way. I would almost, it just depends on the person, right? These trips, I can't imagine ever doing it alone. You could do it solo, but you know, any golf trip, if you can do it with your buddies, that's always the ultimate, right? Or if you do it with your family. So that's, you know, one option, right? You kind of got to decide, hey, am I going to do this myself, or am I going to try to find a group of buddies that'll go with me, or do I partner and buy like a package from a tour operator, right? So when you're going abroad, you'll see a lot of the advertisements from different tour operators that operate in all of those locations, right? So that's the first thing, right? It's hey, am I going to go and try to get all my tee times? Am I going to go and try to book my own hotels? And then the transportation, right? Like that's a challenge. People don't realize it, but like when you rent a car, the steering wheel's on the other side, right? And you're driving on the other side of the road. So just getting from one course to the other, it can be a challenge. And if you're trying to do like a UK trip where maybe you want to play like Birkdale and then you want to bounce over to St. Andrews like we did, somebody's got to drive you there, right? Or if somebody in the group has got to be able to do that. And then if you are with a group, do you rent a van versus a car? Because you got 4 sets of clubs, you got 4 guys, you know, however big your group is. So it can be overwhelming. Take it from a guy who's like has organized these trips and booked them for friends and for writers and everything else, right? Like it's a lot of effort. So you may pay a little more going through a tour operator, but for certain people, like I would probably recommend that, right? If you've never done it before, you haven't been, you want to kind of have everything taken care of for you, that's not a bad route to go. Just a couple other things I always explain to people when you go abroad to play courses, they expect you to walk the course, right? We don't ever talk about that very much, right? So, you know, some people, and I've done it before where you may go to a property and there's 2 courses and you're like, hey, well, I want to play both courses. Like Glen Eagles, they have 3 18s, right? They got the King, the Queen, and then the championship course, right? Or where they had Ryder Cup. You know, so probably walking 36 holes is, most people won't be able to do that, right? Or you're just not going to enjoy it as much as, so I would say limit it to 18 holes a day. And make sure, like, I know when I've done those trips, you know, I try to stay fit and, you know, stay active and stuff like that. But like, I've had buddies who, you know, like you got to like kind of almost pre-train. You know, if you're not used to kind of walking a golf course and walking 18, you know, it sounds funny and all that, but like, yeah, like you know, it's a good idea to start getting on the treadmill about a month out and just getting a routine down and make sure that you can withstand it physically. But, you know, it can be a blast, but like I said, it's so overwhelming. And if, you know, here, when we talk about like with Golf Aficionado, and we're typically talking about domestic trips or even trips to like the Caribbean or wherever, right? Like usually they're destination trips. You get there and then you kind of stay there, or you're on property and they offer multiple courses, and you don't have to travel. But every time I've done, whether it's Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, like it's always spread out, right? And like the great courses tend to be, there's a lot of courses, but those named courses are spread out throughout the region pretty good. So just getting around and having a plan, it can be a lot. It's not as easy. It's a lot easier to go to like a resort like Streamsong. You know where you're sleeping. You're spending the night there. You've got like 418 championship hole golf courses to play, and all the amenities to you. You got a spa and stuff like that. This is more when you go to Europe. It's more rugged. There's a lot more physical exertion, and it's a lot of planning and coordination to make it go smoothly and make sure everybody has a good time.
Another thing that people that are considering trips like this in the States or, North America, Canada, etc., going to the British Isles is you mentioned the walking aspect of it, which is a little different. I think golfers walk a lot more in Canada than the States. That's been
for sure.
That's been my experience for sure. But when you go over there, what people don't realize with a lot of these high-profile name courses, as Greeny referenced them earlier, like a St. Andrews, there's a minimum USGA index requirement to get on these golf courses as well. And that can you speak to that? Because a lot of people, I was talking to my brother-in-law the other day, and he's kind of explaining his bucket list, trip of going over there and playing St. Andrews and I said, you can't just roll up to St. Andrews and be like, you guys got a tee time. I mean, there's a process ahead of time to be able to qualify, so to speak, to be able to play such a facility, correct?
That's a great point. Now, I say that's loosely enforced, right? But I remember the first time doing the trip, and we all, a bunch of guys from the club went, and we had what they expect is like a club issued letter with your handicap, right? Like, hey, Rob Spellman is a 12.4 or whatever, right? Like, something along those lines. So we had that. We never really had to break it out and show it to anybody or prove it to anybody. And, they gave us tee times without that. But yeah, that is kind of like an unwritten rule. And I think they're more, from what I've seen, like they'll let anybody out there, within reason. But yeah, if you're slowing up the course, if you're that bad and they will get to the point where if you're not I think what I've always remembered is like you had to at least be a 21 handicap or better.
Yeah, we looked and it was like a 23 point something index. But I think you're right. I think what they're looking for is people who don't understand the etiquette and the pace of play in the game more than anything else.
And that's why the caddies play such a big role. They keep everybody moving. And some of those courses, like, man, I remember like St. Andrews playing the old course. What an experience that was. But like, with the shared greens and the way the routing is, you'll get killed up. Like if you don't have a caddy, like you're walking right into like a firing zone. He's like, oh, hey, hang on, let these guys hit. You wouldn't think about it, and you're so excited. It's like Disneyland, right? And you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm here. And the next thing you get hit in the head with a golf ball, right? So the caddies are there to kind of just protect you and be your course guide, and then also like keep everybody moving along, right? Because we don't want a 6-hour round of golf.
All right, so Rob, I'm going to ask you, where in the world has Rob Spellman been lately? What was your most recent trip?
My most recent was out to Homer, Nebraska, of all places. So are any of you, do either of you know where I'm going with that one?
I don't.
Oh, wow, I'm surprised, right? So I'd say like this course has like the biggest cult following right now. Have you ever heard of Landman Golf Club?
Yeah, well, I heard of Landman the show.
No, I haven't heard of Landman Golf Club. I'm with Todd. I watched the show, but not the,
okay.
Don't know about the golf course.
You definitely have to read the article then. They opened in 2022, and it's kind of has like the Sweetened Cove vibe, and it's like this really cool place. But think of like the Field of Dreams, right? Where Kevin Costner built the baseball field, right? Like build it and they will come. So I went and got a preview of that course when it was like pretty much done with construction. My daughter was being recruited to play golf for Morningside University at the time, and part of her recruitment trip, they are like, hey, let's go check out this cool course everybody's talking about. Um, and we got a tour of it, and they have like the largest green in the world for like one of the holes, right? So they have like all these unique things, but um, and so we saw it back then, and then my daughter actually ended up going to another school, and then a year later she transferred it back. She transferred into that school, and I'd always been meaning to get back out there and play that course because to give you an idea, like their tee times go on sale. I think December 14th, the whole tee sheet for 2026 opened. The website crashed 3 times, and within 14 minutes and 3 website crashes, every tee time was sold.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
So where are you flying into in Nebraska to like what's the easiest way to get there?
You have 2 choices. You can, and this is where Homer, Nebraska is. Like my daughter, her school is actually in Sioux City, Iowa, but it's in the tri-state area. So like within 5 minutes, you can be in Iowa, South Dakota, or Nebraska. So it's in that region. But you have 2 major airports you can fly into: Omaha, Nebraska, uh, or Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So those are the 2 I would recommend. I've flown into both. The Sioux Falls, South Dakota is probably a little bit closer. But you fly into there and literally it's basically Will Anderson is the owner and kind of the one that dreamed this up. He's like a 4th or 5th generation farmer. His family only has farmed, and they were like one of the big farm operators in the whole state of Nebraska. Um, but he loved golf, and at one point they had acquired like a local course, and they've been managing it. It's called Old Dane, and they're actually they're reimagining it right now. And they, he kind of proven he'd worked at, and there was a real tragic accident at one point, and kind of after that, he lost his appetite for farming, and he was just like, hey, you know, I know the family tradition is farming, but we're going to build a golf course, and it's critically acclaimed. It's been top ranked new course by like multiple outlets and stuff. So it's fun. Like like I told you, like in 14 minutes, the website crashed 3 times, everything sold out, and they do that every year. He's got a great philosophy. He just loves the game of golf. He's not trying to bank a bunch of money. Actually, all the people that operate the course, they lease it from him and they run it and they keep the profit. And they profit share amongst the ground crew and everybody, right? So everybody's doing really well there. They do a great job taking care of the course. But it was cool because the trip itself, we talk about like with golf and trips, and sometimes like I talk about Kingsbarn, right? Like you go there and you're playing with somebody special and you're having special weather, or you play really well. But this was one of those trips and experiences where just so many things came together. I was there for my daughter's graduation, right? So she was graduating college, and she's grown up golfing, with me, and so we were able to finally play that course. We played it together, and Will joined us, and it was a week before they even opened. They weren't scheduled to open the course until the following like Friday. So we got out there, we had the course to ourselves. It's just the 3 of us. And we're talking, and he's explaining everything, and like why they moved this dirt over here, and why they put this bunker over here, and all. Like it was a magical experience. And we walked it, like me and Will walked it, and my daughter she took a cart. It was a great walk, and it was funny like talking to him like out of all the you talk about golfers not walking much in the U.S. and he had his little Sunday bag, and he let me borrow his old set of clubs, which is in a Sunday bag. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna walk with you, and he's like, yeah, he's like. Less than like 3% of the people that golf here walk it, but wow. Yeah, it was just great, man.
I just had a glance online. It looks linksy, right?
Oh yeah. It's a links course at like the middle of an old farm field.
Wow.
But it's cool. Like you don't find it until you get like right up on it. There's no advertising. There's no big sign. There's no big clubhouse. There's no range, but I think they're going to eventually put that in. But like, it's very minimalistic, man. I mean, it is like if you looked up the definition of minimalistic, you'd see a picture of that. But they keep it simple, but man, it is very, very, very special experience. And like I said, it goes to show you, like I've always told this to people, and like there's great golf everywhere, but Homer, Nebraska. Like, who would have ever thought?
So what
You
would,
know,
if you put a trip together for a couple guys who came to you and said, we want to go to Nebraska, want to play there. What would you say? Let's say I want to do a 3-day trip. We'd fly into Sioux Falls. I think you said that would make sense. We would stay where, and how would that trip look?
Yeah. So what I would recommend, believe it or not, in Sioux City, Iowa, they have a beautiful Hard Rock hotel. So I love to gamble and play craps and golf, right? So anytime you can combine the two, the better, right? So you'd fly into Sioux Falls, you'd stay at the Hard Rock, Sioux City, and they host concerts and everything, especially during the summertime. The capstone of your trip, if you could get a tee time on Landman, right, you'd have to plan in advance and be one of those people that get it in 14 minutes, which is probably the hardest part of that trip. Booking the tee time there, but there are some local courses there. My daughter actually worked at one. I think it's Whispering Pines is the name. There's a couple others. Even if you go down to Omaha, I've played the Players Club there, which is Arnold Palmer design. They have 27 holes. But yeah, I think you'd focus it around the Hard Rock and the casino. In the creme de la creme would be Landman, and you'd mix into some of the local courses, and I was there, and I came back in my gear, and the people were like, "Hey, like, where'd you play?" And they were from Minnesota actually, and they were just like, "Man, the golf here, it's so great, and the prices are so," they couldn't believe how cheap it was, everywhere. So it's an oddball trip. It's not something I doubt you'd have buddies coming up to you unless they were specific, like, we got to play Landman.
I don't know. But gambling and golf, I could probably sell a few guys.
No, but that's what I mean. It's a
gambling, golf, and inexpensive.
Yeah, and this Hard Rock, like, they took an old, like, brick warehouse. It reminds me, like, it has like a Camden Yards feel to it. Camden kind of built into like some of those brick warehouses into the stadium. It is, and the rooms are just. It's like one of the nice, and I've stayed at like Ritz-Carlton's, Waldorf Astoria's, all this stuff. Like, it's one of the nicest hotel rooms I've ever had, and it's in Sioux City, Iowa, right?
Todd, I want to know, Todd, how would you feel about selling all your tee times in 14 minutes on December 14th for next year?
Fantastic, and I don't know, like you said, inexpensive. Give the listeners an idea, because I guarantee you some people listening to this right now are planning their next buddy golf trip. They're considering this.
Yeah, like, basically, if you go to Hard Rock, you're paying, if you have any kind of casino credit, you'll get the room for free. But if you're just paying rack rate, I don't think you're paying over $100 a night. And in the course where my daughter worked, Whispering Creek, that tee time is going to set you back like $40 at most. And Landman is very reasonable, right? If you can get the tee time, I think they just raised their rates this year for the first time since they opened in 2022. But I think they're still under $200.
This sounds like a 3-day trip, flight included. You could probably do for $1,000 to $1,500 max.
I think you could do it for $1,000.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And you're going to eat well too, right? Like, right. I mean, it's a unique place, and like I said, the Hard Rock is going to you're going to host you great. And from a gambler's perspective, like, I'm always amazed. Like, I like to play craps. Their craps table is $5 table. Right? You can't find all the blackjack tables. $5.
I'm in.
You can't find them, right? But everything's $5.
I sense a podcast from Landman in our future. We need to get on that. We need to get on that.
I know the guy to call. So
all right, good.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, Rob, man, we always appreciate you coming on. I want to remind everybody to go out to golfaficionadomag.com. You can check out Landman. You can check out all of Rob's other destinations. He always makes us jealous on all the places that he gets to go. And every once in a while, he comes and joins us, whether it's here on the podcast or on the radio show. So appreciate you, Rob.
Thank you, guys.
Good stuff, Rob. Thanks.
Yeah, and Todd, Hal Sutton will be back with me next week, and we'll spin the roulette wheel and see who we get. And you'll be back on with me in a couple of weeks, and we'll see who we get as well. So I want to remind everybody, go out to makefieldgolf.com. Check out all the putters. Todd, you may see me this week. Are you working the rest of the week?
I sure am.
Okay, well, I may give you a quick call one day and say, hey, I'm going to run over there for an hour.
Come on down.
So, yeah, check them out at Carolina Lakes down in Indian Land, South Carolina. But that is the Be the Right Club Today podcast presented by Makefield Putters.
Thank you for listening to Be the Right Club Today with your host, Hal Sutton and Mark Greenhalgh. Presented by Makefield Putters.
The preceding episode was a production of Moonlight Media Works in association with Walk Marketing.